Right, I think this is class 13, I think. So lying down exercises for this one, about an hour, thereabouts. So as with always, check your space before you get going. You'll need your mat. You might want a cushion or a towel for your head and neck support. Shoes on, shoes off, socks on, socks off, whatever suits you. Make sure you're warm enough. You don't want to get cramp through cold. Right, we'll get going. So lying down on your mat. Have your legs bent or straight to start, whichever suits most comfortable for your back. Relax the shoulders. Reposition the hips if the lower back feels a little bit tight. And lie still for a minute or so. You're just going to let go. Just let your body be supported on the floor. And breathe nice and deep into your belly and out. It allows your body to relax, which will allow you to refocus if you're feeling a little bit distracted or you've been busy. And then when ready, you're going to start to just turn your head from side to side. Eyes closed if you want to. Just to allow the muscles in the face to soften and relax. So around the eyes, across the forehead, in the jaw, and then across the chest and the back of the neck and shoulders. Be aware of your breathing, because your breathing makes a big difference to your moves. If you hold your breath, then you start to get a little bit tight in your movement. So allow your breath to lengthen a little bit. And bring your head back to centre. And then we'll start on the shoulder mobility. So I'm going to start with my right arm. You start whichever one you fancy. Bend it to start with and circle that elbow round. So weight is level across your shoulders and your rib cage is nice and still. Okay, and then reverse your circle, so coming around, same arm but just going around in the other direction. I'm going to stay on that arm and just go into the full arm circles if it feels right for your shoulder. So just with a straight arm, just circling back and down. Again, trying to keep the rib cage still. What I mean by that is if you overreach and your shoulder's quite tight, then it brings the lower back into the move and that will push your rib cage up. So it might be a cue that you need to go back to just the bent arm for a few more reps. But if this is feeling okay, nice big circle and then reverse the circle, go around the other direction. And then we'll move on to the other arm, left arm in my case, so bent arm to start with, stir it round. How many reps, it really is subjective. I mean, some days you'll come in and want to go straight into the full arm circle. Other times you'll just want to stay on the bent one. You've really got to start to listen to your body a little bit in your warm up. Then round the other way. You find if you are a bit more patient with your body in the warm up, then you get more out of it later on. So it's worth it. Just reversing that circle, and then again, if and when it feels right for you, you go into your straight arm circle. But your rib cage is a good indicator. If the rib cage is lifting, then this shoulder's not really loose enough. So go back to the bent arm. And just reverse your circle. And then we can do both arms together. So both arms up and back. And you're going to need to stabilise the rib cage quite actively now. So as the arms start to travel back, squeeze the ribs down towards the pelvis, just to stop them lifting. So you want to feel that you're working across your shoulder blades, activating those muscles. We're not going deep into the lower back, not yet. And you can reverse that circle if it suits you. If it feels a bit awkward to do that direction, just carry on with the way you were doing. Okay, and then we'll get into the obliques, the midsection of the back. So a bit of supine twist. Knees together, feet together, arms out to the side, palms facing up, and twist. Legs to one direction, turn your head the opposite direction if you want to. Come back to centre, and release. Over you go. Good. Remember, you can put that cushion, extra cushion, you might have one under your head now. Should have said that earlier, sorry. If you find your chin lifting at any point when you're lying on your back, other than hip lifts, cushion under your head is fine. You might want a cushion between the knees on this one, or just let that top leg just separate slightly from the bottom leg as you come over. If that feels more comfortable. Stacking the hips as best you can, sinking the opposite shoulder into the floor. Starting to feel that middle of the spine and around the hip just starting to loosen up a bit. Stacking the feet if you can. Just gives you that bit of extra weight to help you twist. Straightening and pushing through the front leg if and when it feels right for you. Again, just adding a bit of extra weight on to allow this hip to come over. Sinking the opposite shoulder down as you push through with the heel. Check your breathing again. If you're starting to feel that your breathing's starting to get a little bit tight, then your body will tighten up as well. So full breath in, full breath out. You can set your breathing to the move if you want to. Breathe out on the nice stretchy bit of the move. Breathe in on the prep. So when you get yourself ready, you breathe in, and as you go into the stretch, you breathe out. Feedback I've got over the years is people get very confused with the breathing. They tend to spend most of the hour thinking I should be breathing in now and I'm breathing out, which spoils the class. So I try not to go on too much about breathing, she says, going on about breathing. But just notice yourself, especially in areas where your body's quite tight, if you are holding onto that breath, then wind back a little bit on the stretch and focus a little bit more on that breathing to help you. And then a bit more for around the hip. Now, anybody with any hip replacement, you're going to stay with the knees together. So you're going to continue with the knees together or the cushion between your knees and twisting, just to support the hip joint. But those without hip replacements, take your feet, and don't need one, take your feet wider. So your feet are about the width of your mats, knees are apart, and then you windscreen wiper your knees, and that will just loosen around that hip joint a little bit. Just let your weight roll to the inside of your foot and then to the outside of your foot. Quite nice. If you tend to be tight in your hips, this is quite a nice one. Not forcing it. Just letting the weight of the leg do the stretch for you. And then the lower back. So feet on the floor, arms just softly down by your sides. Reset head and shoulders. Reposition your cushion if you need to. You can on this one, if you are quite tight in that lower back, you can put a cushion or a rolled up towel just under your hips if you want to, just to allow you to stretch that lower back out a little bit if you find that easier. And I'm going to start with just a little rock backwards and forwards, just that little pelvic tilt. So you're just letting the back stretch out, you'll feel your belly tighten, and then come forward, just easing into it. And you can stay with this. This is good because you're really in charge of how much movement you're trying to force through that lower back. So cushion under your bum might help you just get that stretch if it's very tight. Otherwise, bring the knees in and then cradle around the front or back. And again, all you're doing here is just letting that lower back stretch out a little bit. So whichever suits you, pelvic tilts or knees to chest. Just let the legs go nice and heavy. You can just gently let them rock forward and back slightly, just to find that curve in your back and then to stretch it out. Just be aware of how much work your arms are doing. They really should be supporting, not yanking. If you're trying to increase the stretch, then you think about bringing hips to ribs. If you squeeze the front abdominal muscles, that will stretch the back muscles. Much more effective than yanking with your arms. Okay, and then we're going to work through the legs a little bit. So feet down on the floor. Start with your knees bent, and you're going to straighten your right leg. And you're going to bend it and straighten your left leg. Now we want some support in this pelvis. We want to isolate the move in the hip and the leg. So we want to keep this lower back completely still when we do this move. So weight is sitting in the centre of the pelvis on the sacrum. Abdominals are pulled in slightly to support your back. And then you've balanced your glass on your belly. You've probably all seen that little cartoon of the person doing the yoga with the glass of wine. And so imagine that glass of wine sat on your belly as the leg bends and straightens. So we're isolating into the hip and the knee. And we can add the ankle on, so when the leg straightens, we add a little bit of ankle circle as well. Just be careful of your toes cramping on this one. The movement comes from the ankle joint, so soften the toes. Just a couple of circles in each direction, stretching out. And we can bring the arms into this. We did this the other day. So straighten the leg, squeeze the ribs down towards the hips and straighten the opposite arm. And when you add an ankle rotation, you add a wrist rotation. And then that arm comes down as the leg comes in. Straighten the leg from the hip. Bring the arm back, keep the rib cage neutral. Circle the wrist and the ankle. Back it in. Straighten, circle. Both directions. Once more. And you can stay with this low version. Get some movement through the hip without putting too much weight, or you can start to stretch upwards. You might find your pelvis tilts back slightly, and that's fine as long as you feel comfortable. Remember, you can put your towel under your back if you want to, just for a bit of support. Circling round. Good for your circulation. You can always hold onto the back of the leg if you want to, just to hold the weight of the leg, just to give you that time to have a stretch. And we're trying to stretch through the back of the thigh a bit more now, the hamstrings. So I want you to think about using these front leg muscles. So as you kick up, I want you to squeeze, almost like you're pulling on some tights or a wetsuit, pulling those thigh muscles from the knee to the hip. And that will stretch the back of the leg. Still holding on if you want. And you can do both legs together. Holding just at the back of the leg. The hands are kind of like a stop, really, to stop the legs dropping forward and putting the strain in the lower back. So use your front thigh muscles. It's like you're trying to bring your knees towards you a little bit, almost towards your shoulders, using the thigh muscles to do it. Bending, putting the feet down whenever you want to, coming back up, circling the feet, using the thigh muscles to pull the legs towards you. Coming in and out of that move. and then put your feet down and have a good stretch. Really lengthen the spine. We want to get the weight out of the hips and up through the torso. So drag the weight out of your hips and up through to your head. You might find your back arches now. If that feels comfortable, that's fine. Stretch out. Feel these front muscles lengthening and stretching. Ease your shoulders away from your neck. We haven't done our chest stretches today, so we'll do that now. I don't want to leave you with an unstretched chest, do I? So hands together, hands underneath your head. Bring your elbows in and your elbows out. Squeeze on the mobiles. We're going to do a bit more for these shoulders lying on your belly in a minute, so I just want to wake them up a bit. So squeeze the shoulder blades together as your elbows go out. Okay, one more. And then we're going to sit up. So because we haven't really flexed the back yet, I want you to put your hands underneath you and push yourself up to sit in, or I prefer just to shuffle over to one edge of the mat, roll over onto your side, put your hand down by your shoulder and push yourself up. Bring yourself up, grab a drink, where I'll put your drink. So we're going to do some lying on your front. Some people really aren't comfortable lying on their front, so I don't want to put you in a position where you're not comfortable. So if you're not comfortable lying flat on your front, alternatives are to sit, do all the work we're going to do sitting, or kneeling up on your knees rather than on your hands and knees, just so your back is neutral, and you can do the work from there. We're going to do some bringing the shoulders back, so you can do it from kneeling, or you can stand up if you prefer. If you're going to lie down on your front, you might want something to support your head. So you might want a cushion or a rolled up towel just under your forehead, so the back of the neck muscles aren't working too hard. So get yourself comfortable. You're going to pull your belly in just a little bit to support your back, and you're going to have your arms down by your sides. And all you're going to do is squeeze the shoulder blades together. Hold them back for a few seconds and let them relax down towards the mat. So you're pulling back. Don't worry about your arms. People get really hung up and start lifting their hands up. I want you to think about pulling your shoulders back. So you're bringing your shoulder blades in towards your spine. Hold back for a few seconds and release. And you might be aware of the muscles, the triceps, the back of the arms working quite hard. So pull back, squeeze. Little bit of tension in the leg muscles. They're not soft. So still pull those thigh muscles up. If you're pulling on tights, and relax. One more, so you pull your shoulders back and release. Now, next move might be a little bit too intense, so if it is, repeat what we've just done. But otherwise, bend your arms. So you've got your elbows about level with your shoulders, about 90-degree angle, and you're going to lift your arm. One at a time, lift it and pull it down. It always reminds me of the lizards in the desert, this one. Hot, 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 hot. Lift and down. You're trying as best you can to line your hand and your elbow up, so you're not kind of tipped. If you're feeling this in your lower back, those muscles are trying to help. So pull your belly button in a little bit, squeeze your bum and tense these thigh muscles to support the lower back. So this is the first option, and this is really good if you've got an injury on one shoulder. You're allowing it to do what it can rather than match up to the other one, the uninjured one. But if this feels okay and you haven't got any injuries, you can do both together. And you're pulling the shoulders back as you lift the hands. Again, if you feel it in your lower back, this lower back needs a bit more support. So squeeze the bum a bit tighter, stretch through your head, tense your leg muscles, squeeze your belly, support the lower spine. It's quite intense lifting both arms together, so if it's too much, go back to one arm. If the whole thing's just too much, arms down by your sides and pull back from there. And you can do this up on your knees if you prefer. just getting into trapezius muscles at the back of those shoulders. Then we're going to have a go at breaststroke. Now, you know me in swimming, we're not great friends. So it's my interpretation of breaststroke arms. Swimmers, I'm sorry. So we're going to start one arm at a time. So bring your arms out in front. They don't have to be locked out straight. It's a little bend in the elbow. And you're going to circle the arm round. And as it comes down towards your waist, you bend the elbow. Pull it in. Take it, reverse that circle. I know that's not breaststroke. I know. So you come halfway around, squeeze in, and reverse. Go back out again. Pull round. Squeeze the leg muscles, squeeze the bum. Just working into that shoulder. Same on your other arm. Half a circle round, reverse back. Your other arm's giving you a bit of support at the moment. So allowing you to get the motion right. Then we can do both arms together if you want to. So start with your arms out in front. As your arms sweep round and in, this time engage your back muscles and pull yourself away from the floor. And then back out again. Leg muscles, bum muscles are working. So your arms sweep out in your half circle, pull in towards your waist. Use your back muscles to lift you. Don't press on your belly, you'll be sick. Lift up, squeeze that butt, back round. That's your rest. Lying flat is your rest. Enjoy it. Come out again. Half a circle, sweep in, shoulders back and down. Use these back muscles to lift you. Back round. It's a tough move this, but it's really good for your upper body posture. And again, sweep round. Use these back muscles. Mind you're not overworking your neck. Squeeze your shoulders, squeeze your bum. Back round. Rest as long as you need to. Start again when you're ready. Squeeze. Breathe out as you lift yourself up. Breathe in as you rest. Never trust an instructor when they say one more. They always mean two. So this is the last one. Curl in, lift, breathe out. And round. Good. Have a little rest. Only a little one. We're going to give the upper body a rest. So while that's resting, we'll work the legs. So you can use your cushion, you can use your arms, support your head, squeeze your belly. Now, I don't want any pelvic tilting here. So pull your belly button as tight as you can to keep your tailbone pointing down towards the foot end of your mat. And then you're going to use your bum muscles and your thighs to pull the foot away from the floor. If you release these abdominal muscles, then the work comes from the lower back. And yes, the leg will lift higher, but the bum muscles aren't doing an awful lot of work. So we're going to squeeze the belly, keep the pelvis neutral. So when we lift, you're going to really feel the back of the thigh and the bum muscles doing the work. You feel your bum contract. Check your shoulders, because they might try and push down to help. So as the right leg lifts, I want you to tense the thigh on the left leg. Same on the other side. So as the left leg lifts, tense the thigh on the right leg. Like squeezing those thigh muscles. It's a good one for releasing the front of the hip as well as activating the bum muscles. And again, you can stay with this, or you can bend the leg. So you bend it to about 90 degrees, pull your toes down towards your mat, and you push up with your heel. And just go from leg to leg. Now again, as you push the leg up, the other leg, the thigh, tenses. Just to stabilise and give you that extra bit of support. So pull the toes down, squeeze the butt, push up through your heel, tense your thigh on the other leg. This is going to get your bum muscles strong, and they're important to support your lower back. Check your arms again, they shouldn't be pushing. I've got my head lifted because otherwise I'll be talking down into the mat and you won't hear a word I'm saying. So I've got my head lifted slightly, you won't, you'll be rested on your cushion. Bend the leg about 45 degrees, push through the heel, tense the other thigh and lift. and then relax. Good. I'm going to get you to work your front abdominals in a minute, but just to release that back a little bit, if it's feeling a little bit tight, bring yourself up and have a quick child's pose stretch. Just push the hips back. We're not going into full child's pose, we're just moving forward and back just to release the hips and the lower back from that flat position, which is quite demanding. Forward and back, just as far forward and back as feels right for you. Remember, hip replacements, do not force that hip. We want to keep it flexible, but we don't want to make it too, we don't want to loosen it, do we? We want to keep it where it's supposed to be, just forward and back. Then we're going to get the front abdominals working. So again, I'm going to build this one up. Come with me as far as is right for you. So to start with, fold your arms like you've just done. And there's not a lot to see, but you can feel it. So what I want you to do is tense your belly as if you're going to be punched in the belly. So you're tensing, almost like somebody's trying to get sort of a playing card between your belly and the floor. They'd struggle, frankly, with my belly at the moment, but just imagine trying to slide something underneath you and relax. Now check where the work's coming from. We don't want to be coming from the shoulders. We're not pushing down with the arms and rounding the shoulders. We're sucking the belly button to spine. Push your tailbone down slightly towards the foot end of your mat. If, like me, you're quite arched in the back, there's a tendency for the pelvis to tilt forward. So as you suck your belly in, push your tailbone down towards the foot end of your mat, and then you'll find you get that little bit of a gap. So you can stay with this. We're just trying to engage the front abdominals. Or, a little bit harder, come up onto your elbows, relax the shoulders. And just the same, you squeeze your belly and push the tailbone down, and that gives you that slight lift away from the floor. Hold it for a second or two and relax. So you squeeze your belly button as if you're about to be punched. You clench your bum and tuck your tailbone under without rounding the shoulders. And release. If that feels okay, once you've tucked your tailbone under, see if you can lift your hips. So you're lifting yourself a little bit further from the floor. You will feel those abdominals start to shake. And back down. So you suck your belly in, you tuck your tailbone down, and then you try and lift your hips up, keeping those abs tight. When this goes wrong, it looks more like that. Bum in the air, thinking, well, it just feels easy, I don't see what the fuss is about. Tuck under, squeeze those abdominals, keep wide across the chest. So squeeze, tuck, lift. Hold it for a breath or two. Back down. If you want more, we come to full low plank. So we pull the belly, we tuck the tailbone, we lift the hips, keep the chest wide so we're not hunching. Tuck your toes, straighten your right leg, straighten your left leg. Lengthen through that spine, don't hunch into those shoulders. Hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and down. Don't collapse. Down. Another go. Belly button in, tailbone down, chest wide and lifted. Lift the hips. So you're lifting just onto the front of your knees because you're going to lift your knees in a minute. Tuck your toes, straighten your right leg, straighten your left leg. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and down. One more. Shoulders down, belly button in, tailbone down. Lift those hips. Tuck the toes. Straighten the right leg, push through the heel. Straighten the left leg, push through the heel. Hold it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and down. And rest. Well done. Nice stretch for that one. After that one, stretch those abdominals. Put your forearms on the floor in front of you. And when you're ready, use your back muscles to lift you up. That will stretch your belly. Good. Further forward your hands are, the smaller the lift. So find the stretch for you. But you are grounding through your hands, but your back muscles are lifting you up. Try not to push too hard with your arms. So you're pulling your shoulders back and down, pulling back. Again, tense the thigh muscles just to give you a little bit more support. It will stretch the belly out, stretch the hips out. Get your breath back after those lifts. That's a hard way of coming to plank, that is. Really activates the core muscles rather than letting the legs do all the work. Once more. Okay, then we're going to come into child's pose. So remember, child's pose is very demanding on the knees and the hips. If you find in child's pose you end up in that position, all that's going to happen is all the blood's going to be in your head and you're not going to feel very comfy. So alternatives is to sit on your bum and let your spine relax that way. It's a much more natural way of relaxing the back if you've got any issues with your knees. So you can relax here if you find that more comfortable, or you can come all the way up and maybe do a little child pose where you keep quite high and just push your hips back. It's to loosen the lower back. But otherwise, big toes together, knees apart, sit back on your heels or put a cushion or two cushions just to sit back on, and then lower yourself down, only as far as feels comfortable for you. You can be all the way up here if you want to, just as long as that lower back feels and those hips feel like they're getting a bit of a stretch. Lower if you want. Let your weight go quite heavy into those hips. Then we're going to do a bit of side stretching. If you're happy in your child's pose, then you take your weight over to one side. So if you line your nose up with your knee and bring your arms either side of your head, push your hips back. And it's particularly the opposite hip you want to push back. So I've come over to my left leg, which means I'm trying to square my right hip up, pushing it back slightly to square it up. If I want a deeper stretch, my right hand comes on top of my left as I square that right hip back. Same on the other side, so I'll go over to my right leg, line my nose up with my knee, bring my arms out and line them up either side of my ear, either side of my head, so lined up with my ears, and I'll try and square my hips. So I'll push the left hip back slightly. If I want a deeper stretch on my left side, I put my left hand on top of my right hand as I push that left hip back. If your knees do not like that, sit on your bum, have your legs out in front, square your hips, anchor down on your left arm and reach your right arm over your head. Just the same, as I reach over with my right arm, I push my right hip down to square it up. It's just the same. It's going to give you the same stretch without the problem with the knees. So why wouldn't you if you've got any issues with your knees? Then we're going to do a bit of threading the needle, just to get that rotation. Bad news, no chest openers today, so if you really object to not doing chest opener, you can get that in now, but the rest of us are going to do threading a needle rotation instead, just for a bit of a change. So you're up on your hands and knees, right hand turns over and slides under, so you're reaching, remember you're reaching under the bed for that lone sock, reach through. Come back, draw the arm back, and as you draw it back, reach it up to the ceiling. Presenting your chest to the side, sliding your shoulder down your back. Sorry, I'm talking to the wall and not to you. Do the other side, so take the hand through, turn it over and slide it through. Again, I'm not going low because I want you to be able to see what my arm's doing, but you can go as low as feels right, bending the other arm as much as you need to, and you're pulling the arm through. Then you bring it back, and as you bring it back, you reach it up, and you present your chest. So you slide the shoulder back, bringing your chest through. Back down, same on the other side. If you prefer, you can do the lift up first, but I just thought I'd show you this way. So you reach through, bending the other arm as you need to, reaching that shoulder through, and then you rotate the opposite direction. Same on the other side, slide through, reaching away from you to stretch the back of the shoulder and the back of the hip. And then you reach up, little twist, pull the shoulder back, push the chest through forward. Lovely. Then a bit of work for the bum muscles. So onto your side, block underneath your head or cushion. Remember, you don't want this bottom shoulder acting as a cushion because you'll get a cricked neck. So the shoulders need to be level, and then you sort out some support for your head. It can be your cushion, it can be your arm, it is not your bottom shoulder. Knees bent, legs in your 90 degrees to start with. We're going to lift the leg up, draw the rib cage away from the floor. I want your hips square, I want your spine stacked. No dip towards that mat. Squeeze the bum muscles and lift the top leg to about level with the hip. So there's not a big gap between your knees, but I want you to hold it there for 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower. And as you lift that leg up, I want you to imagine somebody trying to push it back down again. So you're not going to let this leg drop. Check your position. Sometimes we end up more in that shape where we've activated the lower leg muscles more and the foot's gone higher. So square it up. Another little trick we try is to lean back. You know that because your knees are really wide and your bum muscles are doing practically nothing. So hips are stacked. Activate these leg muscles. Push up through this leg. Push down a little bit through the bottom leg. When you've done your 5 seconds, relax. You're going to do me 2 more of these. Nice straight spine. I've been looking at my legs, so it's rounding my back. So look forward, pull the rib cage, lift. Really use these outer thigh muscles. Imagine somebody trying to push that leg back down. Same with the bottom leg. Push down through the bottom leg. Really use these legs. Sick of the word leg now, aren't you? 3, 2, 1, down. One more. Get your breath and lift. Don't roll back. Nice straight spine. Pushing up with the top leg and down with the bottom leg. 3, 2, 1, rest. Give it a rub. Now, a nice instructor would leave it there. So what I'm going to do is straighten the top leg. You can keep the bottom leg bent. Any hip replacements, you might find this circle doesn't suit you because we're working on mobility in the hip. So hip replacements, what I would suggest is that you just go up and down and then you go forward and back. So you're kind of making a sort of an L shape hip replacement. So we're still working on mobility, but we've taken the circle bit out of it just to keep your hip nice and stable. But the rest of you, get the leg straight, tailbone pointed down, spine long, lift that leg to hip height and then circle it. Working into these bum muscles. Keep the spine stacked, keep the rib cage lifted. Oh, you can feel that leg tiring now. Be careful now. If the leg is really tiring, it's going to look to other bits to do the work. And it might call on the neck and the shoulder. So you might need to reset your shoulders to relax the neck muscles. They should not be helping. The leg's got to do it itself. Reverse your circle. Tighten those abdominal muscles. Keep the hips square. It's difficult when you start to tire because your body starts to look for other muscles to do the work. And that's where you lose your technique and you get your injuries. When that leg's had enough, bend it. Just bring it out in front. You can put the knee down or just rest on the side of the foot and just give that a nice little rub and a stretch. The problem is, got to do the other side now. So open over. Leg lift to start with. So get yourself comfy. Get your shoulders squared, then support your head. Pull your rib cage up, square your hips, bring your legs to sort of a 90-degree position. Basically just like a seat, it's a perfect sitting position. And then squeeze the butt and lift the top leg. Hold it for your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and down. And remember, you want to activate the outside leg muscles. So squeeze the middle of your body and imagine somebody trying to hold your leg down and you pushing it up. Same with the bottom leg. You're going to push down a little bit on the bottom leg. So the outer thighs, your abductor muscles, your glute med muscles, your side bum muscles, right the way down your ankle, all your stabilising muscles, they're all working. You can hold the leg for longer, up there for longer if you want to, or you can reduce it. I want you to feel that you're working. Check the line, we don't want the foot higher than the knee. Squeeze your bum. If you're feeling your lower legs working but nothing else, clench your buttocks like you're holding your 10-pound note and just rest your hand lightly on your top leg, just so those muscles have a little bit of awareness that they're supposed to be doing something. Lift, squeeze, push down with the bottom leg, squeeze up with the top leg for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. You're going to do me one more. Just lengthen that spine. Come on, good posture for the last one. Lift. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and down. Good. Right. Bring that bottom leg back a bit just to give you a bit of stability. Remember, hip replacements up and down and forward and back. So you're getting kind of a cross or an L shape sort of feeling. Otherwise, get the hips square, pull the rib cage up, lift the leg to about hip height and circle round. Use your bum muscles to pull the leg back. Use your thigh muscles to pull the leg forward. You're not just bouncing in that hip joint. Active. Push through your heel. Circle it round. Keep this torso tight. Both directions. You might be aware of your bottom leg working. That's fine. That's stability, but not the bottom shoulder. That's just supporting your head. It's not pushing into the floor. You'll hurt your shoulder. Lengthen through your spine if you feel the shoulder's trying to do too much, or stop the move. When that leg's had enough, put it down on the floor, rest on the knee, side of the knee, or the side of the foot, whatever feels right, just to give these muscles a little bit of a recovery. You're welcome. Evil laugh. What's next on my list of torture? Alright, lying on your back. We're going to stretch these bum muscles out now. Let's grab a quick drink first. Nice stretch for anybody who gets very tight glutes, or if you're prone to sciatica, it just releases it. So you're going to start with one knee bent, and you're just going to cross the ankle, the other ankle just over the knee. And that might be all you need. You just finish, just letting that knee move away from you. Don't bounce it, just move it away from you, and you feel your bum muscle working, just stretching. That might be enough stretch. You can just lightly rest your hand on the thigh just to allow that stretch. Don't force it. If you want a deeper stretch for the back of the leg, sort of into the hamstring insertion, the supporting leg that's on the floor, my left leg in this case, is going to leave the floor, and when you can reach it, you just wrap your hands around your thigh. And that will give you a deeper stretch from me on that bent leg, from me the right leg. You're just getting a deeper stretch. The more you bring the knee towards you and you bring the ankle towards you, the deeper the stretch will be. Breathe. If you're finding you're clenching and holding your breath, it's too deep, stretch is too much, go back to your foot on the floor. And you come in as far as feels right. Check the knee's not coming in with you, because if the knee's trying to come into your shoulder, you're not going to get any stretch. Probably easier on the other side if I say left and right, because it's both knees and it gets a bit confusing. So I'll do the other leg, so uncross. So I'm going to put my right leg down and I'm going to cross my left ankle over. Left knee's out to the side. Just make sure your ankle is comfortable. And that might be enough stretch. So stay there for a second or two and check it out. See how it feels. Don't come into the advanced stretch if you don't need to. Why would you? If you need the deeper stretch, then your right foot starts to leave the floor, and you just put your hands around the back of the leg just to support the weight of the leg. And as your right knee comes in towards your chest and your left knee stays out to the side, you're going to get that stretch right in your glute and the insertion of your hamstrings on this left leg. Breathe. Good thing with these stretches, you're in charge. So you think, oh no, that's a bit much for me. Put your foot back down. Breathe. And then release. So hopefully that's just loosen the bum muscles. And if you've been doing a lot of gardening and you get that kind of tight dead leg feeling in the leg, then it's a good stretch to do. Right, bit of knee folds now, bit of leg work and pelvic stability work. So shoulders back and down. Reset your shoulders, block under your head if you want to. You need a block or cushion if you're lying there with your chin lifted up, because you can't breathe very well like that. So tuck your chin in, put something underneath your head. Nice long neck. Then we're going to start with our marching into our knee fold. So set your hips, relax your shoulders. Arms are on the floor for a bit of stability, but not pushing hard against the mat. When you're ready, abdominals tight, you're going to lift your right foot just slightly off the floor and down, and your left foot. Remember, this is our foundation move. We get this one right, the moves flow nicely one from the other. We get this wrong, or we don't take the time, the moves aren't going to be any as effective. So the pelvis is going to stay still. Our glass of wine balanced nicely on our belly. So you're just checking that even though your weight is going from leg to leg, you've got sufficient stability in the torso that it's not moving. So when you're happy with that, if you want to, you then come to single knee fold. So you bring the leg to 90 degrees. Still keeping the same shape down the front of the body, your natural curve in your back, shoulders relaxed. And you're going to hold that for about 5 seconds. Use your leg muscles. So pull those thigh muscles a bit tight. Squeeze the bum a little bit. When you've counted to 5, that foot goes down. Pelvis stays square and the other leg lifts. So remember, this is about the legs appearing weightless, because we've got so much stability going on in this torso, it's not moving. No visual cues about how heavy and how hard it is to lift the legs. They float. Shoulders relax. Pelvis is still. So this is going to allow you to walk along like you're floating, not dragging your feet through the mud. Okay, we've got double knee fold if you want. Remember, double knee fold comes with a modification for those who, like me, are quite arched in the back, or if you've got any issue with your neck. So when you bring the leg up, rather than stopping the knee fold, bring it a little bit closer in, and you'll feel your weight shift a little bit higher, further up your pelvis. It just reduces the curve in your back and makes it easier to lift the second leg. You don't want that feeling of when your second leg goes up that you're pushing your belly forward, because that's putting all the work, even more work in the back. So slight pelvic tilt if needs be. Double knee fold, legs parallel, feet about a hip distance apart, shoulders relaxed. Use your leg muscles, switch them on, let them support themselves. Squeeze the thighs, squeeze the butt. About 5 seconds, maybe a bit longer, feet down one at a time. And remember that we want the legs to look like they're floating, so no visual cues from this torso. It's not contracting, we're not to get the feet off the floor. This is the annoying thing with Pilates, because people stand at the window, they watch you do the work and they think, well, how hard can that be? You can be clever and alternate which leg leads if you want to. Check in the shoulders. Remember, when you get tired, they get recruited and they start to lock up. So that's telling you you're either getting a bit lazy in the legs and they're not working hard enough, or they can't, and you need to stop at that point. We're just going to do one more. So up, lengthen the spine, zip the abdominals and float the leg up. And then down, and have a stretch out. Just release your concentration as much as anything else. Let your brain have a rest. Move around a little bit. And we're going to take that into single leg kick. So again, I'm going to build this up. So come with me as far as is right for you. You've done the first bit already in the warm-up, so it'll be a nice little refresher. So the first bit, start with your knees bent. You're going to slide your right foot along the floor. You're going to lift and bring your left arm back to the side of your head. Rib cage flat, pelvis neutral. Bring them back in. Same on the other side. So leg slides along the floor, arm comes back. Rib cage is down and neutral, pelvis is flat and neutral. When I say pelvis flat, I'm talking about the front. Straight line from belly button to pubic bone. Weight is pretty much centred in the middle of the pelvis, across the shoulders, it's not moving. So this is your first option. Your second option, bring your right leg to knee fold position. So knee over hip, heel about level with the knee. Abdominals tight, reset the hips if needs be. Lift your left arm up so your hand is over your shoulder. Now squeeze the centre. Push the leg forward until the knee is straight. Pull the arm back to the side of your head. Come back to your start position. Hand and foot to the floor. Lift your left leg to knee fold, right hand up over the shoulder. Squeeze that centre, that feeling of somebody about to punch you in the belly, and hold that feeling as the arm and leg move out. Push the heel away if you want to stretch the calf. Bring that arm and leg back to start position and down to the floor. So underneath you, even though your arms and legs are moving around, the weight under your shoulders and your hips is really steady. So all the work is coming out the shoulder and the hip joint. The joints down the spine are held steady. They're not doing anything. They're being held steady. Those muscles in your spine are supporting it. So this is your next option. Third option is to come to double knee fold. So one leg at a time, slight pelvic tilt if you need to, and both hands off the floor. Move is the same though. So you push the right leg forward until it's straight. You pull the left arm back until it's by the side of your head. Squeeze that centre. I'm not just going to punch you in the belly now, I'm going to stand on you. Come back in with that arm and leg. Push the left leg out until the knee is straight. Pull the right arm back. Check your belly now. If your belly starts to dome out, you need to go back to an easier level or you need to stop. Those abs should be pulled in. Squeeze, push through the heel if you want to stretch the calf. Come back. Don't forget to breathe. Squeeze that centre. The lower your foot gets to the floor, the more challenging the move will be. So if you're finding it too difficult, lift your foot up slightly. One more, last one. Push and back it. Good. Have a rest. You might find if you've been holding everything very tight, that centre, just bringing the knees into the chest, maybe the knees a little bit wider, kind of a bit of a happy baby, will just release that tension around the middle and you can roll around a little bit. So let that tension rest for a sec. Then we've got our hip lifts to get the bum muscles strong. So feet on the floor, heels quite close to the to your bum on this one. They're about level with the back of your knee. Knees hip distance. Now you can't have a cushion under your head for this one because it stops your breathing. So take your cushion away, and if you want to put it between your knees, which will activate the leg muscles and the butt muscles a little bit more, trying to keep hold of that cushion. Shoulders relaxed and down. Arms are down by your sides. Now, I don't want your head moving along the floor. So set your shoulders where you want them to stay and they are not going to move. You're going to clench your bum muscles a couple of times to make sure that's where the work's coming from. Clenching the bum muscles is not a pelvic tilt. That's a different move. Pelvic tilt uses the lower back. Bum clenching uses the glutes. So you should be able to keep a curve in your back, straight line down the front, and feel your bum muscles squeezing. Yeah? Good. So squeeze the bum, keep the shoulders down so you ground down slightly through your shoulders and lift your hips. And lower your hips. If you've slid along the mat, come back and have another go at it. So set your shoulders where you want them, clench your bum, gently press down through your shoulders as your hips go up. Don't let those shoulders move. And now, good. It might take a few, if your hips are quite tight, it takes a few to get up straight. So the first few is just trying to get up. What I want you to try and avoid doing is using your lower back to lift you. If you let your pelvis tilt back or forwards, then you're going to feel it across that back. It's got to come from the butt and the hips. When you've gone up as high as is right for you, you might need to bring your feet in a little bit closer just to stabilise you. You're going to ground down through your feet a little bit more, don't get cramp. Then you're going to take your arms up and back. Squeeze these bum muscles, use your glutes, don't use your lower back. Back up to the ceiling with your arms, and as your arms come to the floor and your body comes to the floor, push down with these arms, use these arms. So squeeze first, ground down through your shoulders as you lift your hips. Check your feet are supporting you. A little bit more pressure in the feet, not enough to get cramp, but just to give you stability. And then float the arms up and back. If you're feeling it in the lower back, squeeze the butt, pull the belly button in tighter. Back to the ceiling and down. If your back of your legs are starting to feel a bit crampy, your feet are too far away and you're activating the hamstrings. It's got to come a bit higher in the bum. Up you come. I'm bossy today, aren't I? Aren't I? Lift. Grind down through those shoulders. You might find now you can lift your hips a little bit higher. God, these bum muscles are switched on now, aren't they? Probably up round the back of your head by now. They're switched on that much. Lift. Ground down through the shoulders and the legs. Those hips are up. And push down. Lovely. Well done. Again, bring the knees in. Have the knees apart if you want to, just to release through those lower back muscles and that glute muscle, those glute muscles. Move around a bit if you want. Well done. It's a lot of work there. Just going to do some flexing for the back and some work for the abdominals. Now this one, again, because we're coming from the floor up unsupported, is not appropriate for slip discs. It's not appropriate for osteoporosis, and it's not very comfortable if you're pregnant either. So your alternative is to sit yourself up and let your back round and straighten from a sitting position, just to support you. Hands at the back of the legs to support the weight. So you're getting the flexion movement, but your back is supported while you do it. Otherwise, lying flat, feet down or feet up, whichever suits you better. There's not one way suits everybody, and one's not harder than the other. It's whatever suits your back. For me, it's feet up, suits my back. Hands can be behind your head, or one hand can be behind your leg, or both hands behind your legs, whatever hand allows you to flex your back. Tuck your chin in just slightly, squeeze your ribs to your hips and curl up. So you're moving your shoulders away from the floor and then easing your shoulders back to the floor. I like to put one hand behind my head just to support the weight of that head because it's blooming heavy. There's a lot of Pilates in this head, it makes it very heavy. Curl up and down. Now, although you've tucked your chin in slightly, you're not pressing it into your throat. You're keeping a slight gap. And you're thinking about bringing ribs to hips. And then you're enjoying the stretch back out. If your neck does not like this move, then sit up and do it from seated into a pelvic tilt instead. Curl up. And down. Now those of you who like your roll like a ball, we can add that on now if you want to. Again, osteoporosis, slip disc, pregnancy, this isn't for you, so stay with your sitting. Those of you sitting, if you're getting a bit bored with just rounding your back, you can do a nice beetle and angel if you want to, just to get things moving at the end of the class. Those of you lying down, hands at the back of the legs. Bring your chin in slightly, curl your shoulders up like you just did, and push forward into a sitting position. Hey, look at that. Roll back down. You can use your arms to help you. Roll back down to the floor. Bend your knees again. Bring them into your chest. Tuck your chin in slightly. Squeeze ribs to hips. Push forward through your legs. Sit up. Hands on the floor. Roll your spine back to the mat. Bring your knees into your chest. Hands at the back of the legs. Tuck your chin in. Squeeze your ribs down to your hips. Push your legs forward. Sit up. If you want to do the full rolling like a ball, if it's appropriate for you, Bring your legs in close. Rather than lying yourself back to the floor, stay holding on. Let your pelvis tilt back, so you're making a kind of a C shape with your back, and roll back to your shoulders and roll up. So you can't do this with a flat back. If you go back with a flat back, you're going to smack into your lower back. So you tuck your tailbone under and you sit into a C shape, bringing your knees in close, and your weight will get to that tipping point where it rolls back and it rolls forward. If you don't like it, stay with what we were doing before, where you put your hands down and you rolled yourself to the floor. Bring your knees in and curl up. I don't want you to slam back into your shoulders. Roll back if you prefer. We're nearly done. Good. One more. Have you done it? Lovely. All right, up to standing. So bring yourself round onto your hands and knees. A little bit of a hamstring stretch, calf stretch rather. Straight on one leg, push through your heel. Same on the other leg, push through your heel. Just gives your blood time to get into your head before we stand up, so you're not going to go dizzy. And then we can stand up. So from your hands and knees, bring your hands in front of your knees. Push back onto your feet. Get your feet square. Fidget your toes around a bit. Hands on your thighs. Lift your torso so you're in a squat. And then slowly come up. Roll the shoulders. Hopefully everything feels a little bit looser. A little bit straighter. Nice deep breathing. Spread your toes out. Hands in your back pockets and push your chest forward. Pull your shoulders back. Good. Chest forward, shoulders back. And swings to finish. So arms out in front. Swing your arms back. Sit back into your hips. Drive up. Little back bend if your back will let you. Sit down, drive the arms back, use your arms to help propel you up and forward. One more. Reach up for the ceiling. Stack your weight over your hips. Pull your shoulders down away from your ears. Square yourself up. Arms down by your sides. You're done. Go and have a nice cup of tea. Thank you.